Imagine a massive boulder resting at the foot of a steep mountain. It looks immovable, as if it's been there for centuries. One day, a small group gather, determined to roll it up the hill and ultimately get it out of their pathway. They push and push, and at first, nothing happens. Finally, after persistent effort, the boulder begins to shift. The small movement inspires the group to continue pushing. Each push builds on the last until finally, that boulder begins to roll. As the boulder makes it past that first incline, it begins rolling down a gentle slope. The group no longer had to push hard. The momentum carries the boulder forward. Excited that they did it, they begin to cheer as the boulder is picking up speed. Midway up the mountain, that boulder encounters rocks and tree roots. It slows, threatening to stop entirely, but the group quickly jumps into action, clearing the path and giving it another push. The higher the boulder climbs, the more visible the peak becomes. And although the group is growing tired, the sight of their goal invigorates them. Push harder, someone says. We're almost there, somebody else says. Finally, with one last surge of effort, the boulder reaches the summit, and the group watches in awe as the boulder rolls down the other side of the mountain, carving a clear path forward. Life is like moving that boulder. Starting is the hardest part. You're pushing with all your strength, just trying to get it to budge an inch. But once it's rolling, the effort becomes lighter and the task feels less daunting. That's the power of momentum. It's a principle that applies not just to moving boulders, but to moving mountains on your growth journey. Building momentum is one of the most essential ingredients to achieving your goals and creating lasting change. But how do you create it? How does one sustain it? Today, we're going to explore the momentum principle, why it's essential, and how to harness it for a life of progress. Momentum is often misunderstood. Many believe that it is the byproduct of success. It's something that arrives after you've achieved a milestone. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Momentum is the engine that powers your success. It's what carries you forward when your motivation dwindles. It's what steadies you when the road gets tough. And it's what propels you past the plateaus that threaten to hold you back. Imagine an athlete that's training for a marathon. They don't start their journey by running 26.2 miles. They begin with a single step, a single lap, and a single mile. That step doesn't just prepare their bodies, it builds the mental momentum that is needed to take on the bigger challenge. Momentum isn't the result of achievement, it is the catalyst for it. It's not about moving fast, it's about moving forward. Think of a snowball that's rolling downhill. It starts small, requiring effort to get it to roll. But as it gathers snow, it grows larger and picks up speed. Every rotation adds to its strength. Every rotation adds to its impact. And every rotation adds to its eventual unstoppable force. Our personal growth journeys are no different. Every small action, every step forward, it adds to our momentum. Over time, this consistent effort that you put in transforms into an unstoppable force that drives you towards accomplishing your goals. But the thing we must remember is that momentum doesn't create itself. You are going to have to be an active participant in your growth journey, because the only way the momentum is born is through intentional, persistent effort. Momentum begins not with leaps. It begins with small, deliberate steps. Too often, we paralyze ourselves by aiming for perfection out of the gate. We set goals so massive that they feel unattainable, leading to frustration and ultimately leading to inaction. But before we can do the impossible, we must start with what's possible. Start with what feels doable. Because once your momentum kicks in, there are no limits to what you can accomplish. So start with what feels doable. Want to improve your health? Start with a 10-minute walk daily rather than an extreme diet or fitness regimen. That extreme diet seems all good until that motivation wears off and you find yourself sneaking eating cheesecake in the closet. Dreaming of writing a book? Commit to one sentence or one paragraph a day. The actions that seem insignificant are the seeds to growth. Each small step builds confidence and creates a sense of accomplishment. When you win in the small things, you train your brain to believe that success is possible. Think about a rocket that's launching into space. The first few seconds require an immense amount of energy because if it's going to break Earth's gravity, it's going to require an immense amount of energy. But once it's in orbit, it moves with far less effort. Your small wins are the liftoff, pushing you through resistance until momentum takes over. So the first thing for us to remember is that wins, no matter how small, fuel momentum. Celebrating them isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's about reinforcing the habits of progress. And I'm getting hot, so I'm gonna take this jacket off. When you acknowledge even the smallest victories, you are signaling to your brain that your efforts matter. So practically, how can we accomplish this? First, set micro goals. These are bite-sized objectives that feel manageable, but build toward your larger vision. If your ultimate goal is to run a marathon, your micro goal might be to run a mile a day. Another practical tip is to create rituals around your wins. Whether it's journaling about your progress, sharing your milestones with your friends, or rewarding yourself with something meaningful, make it a habit. Make it a habit to celebrate. The key here is progress, not perfection. And remember, every small win becomes the foundation of bigger achievements, building your momentum brick by brick. One of the things that I often talk about is the fact that motivation is fleeting. Motivation is a spark, it's not a flame. Momentum, on the other hand, is built through consistent action, showing up even when you don't feel like it. So what are some practical ways that we can begin to stay consistent with our actions? First, schedule your actions. Treat your goals like non-negotiable appointments. And when doing that, use reminders and trackers, visual cues like calendars, apps. All of this stuff can be used to our advantage and help keep us accountable. Number 3, find accountability. Partner up. Partner up with someone who can encourage you to stay the course. Think of a wind-up toy. It doesn't keep moving because you wound it once. It moves because you keep winding it. Your consistent actions are the mechanism that keeps your momentum alive. Another thing to consider as it pertains to us building this momentum is that your environment can either propel you forward or hold you back. A cluttered desk or toxic relationships or even negative self-talk, yes, you in the way that you speak to yourself matters. All of that can ultimately drain your momentum. On the other hand, a supportive environment, physically, mentally, and emotionally, can amplify your efforts towards your momentum. As it pertains to your environment, there are a few questions that I would suggest asking to yourself. The first one is, are there distractions that are pulling me away from my goals? The second is, do the people around me support my growth or hinder it? And the third one is my space organized in a manner that promotes focus? If you're working on a creative project, clearing your workspace can create the clarity that you need to dive in. Likewise, surrounding yourself with supportive friends can encourage you to push through tough times. When it comes to our momentum, we need to trust the compound effect. As we've discussed, momentum is cumulative. The small actions you take today may not result in immediate success, but over time, they create exponential opportunity. They create exponential growth. When you plant bamboo, it spends years growing roots underground. There's little visible progress, but beneath the surface is building a strong foundation. Then eventually it shoots up to incredible heights. That's a perfect example of the compound effect. Small, consistent actions lead to massive results in our lives. I'm gonna say something, and I want you to lean in. Patience is not your enemy. Patience is your ally. And we just have to make sure that we keep watering ourselves even when the progress feels invisible. Trust that your efforts are building the foundation for your future success. One of the things that we need to mention as we're talking about this concept of momentum is that building momentum is only half of the battle. Maintaining it is where the real challenge lies. Life will inevitably throw distractions, setbacks, and obstacles in your way. However, the distractions, the setbacks, the obstacles, they are not preventing you from your growth journey. They are a part of it. The key is to stay adaptable. So what are some strategies for sustaining momentum? The first, and we've talked about it a lot over the last couple of weeks, but reconnect with your purpose. You need to be in a constant loop of reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing and reminding yourself why you started in the first place. Number two, focus on the next step. Don't get overwhelmed by the big picture. Just keep moving forward. Number three, embrace setbacks as learning opportunities. They're not the end of your journey. They're a chance for you to grow on the journey. I want to submit to you that momentum is your superpower. Motivation is fleeting, but momentum isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a powerful force that you can harness to achieve your goals. By starting small, celebrating your wins, staying consistent, and designing your environment for success, you create a cycle of progress that moves you forward. So our first step to building momentum is to start small, dream big. Step number two is to celebrate the small wins. Step number three is to focus on consistency. Step number four is to design your environment for success. Step number five is to trust the compound effect. And step number six is to keep the momentum alive. So I have to ask you, what's one small step that you can take today to begin to build momentum? Drop it in the comments below, commit to it, and take action, because you'll never know how far you can go until you get moving. But once you get moving, you'll be amazed at just how far you'll go. Always remember that growth is a journey, not a destination. I'm in it with you, and I'll see you on the next one.